Thanks for watching. Today I'm going to show you how I did this underwater mermaid rescue scene. A little bit about the assets that I've used in the image. The mermaid and the pirate are 1/6 scale TV League dolls or models. His pirate outfit originally came on a Jack Sparrow model, and I was able to get all the individual pieces off of eBay and get the full outfit. And the mermaid, I just removed her legs and then added this mermaid tail. The foreground and background is actually images that I took of a cave, and I'll be providing you a link to download the models, the foreground, the background, and the water. You'll have to find a ship and some fish. I downloaded these off of Ubuntu Elements. So let's go ahead and get started. So I created a document that's 3,300 by 5,500 high, and I'm going to use the paint bucket tool and paint this whole surface this kind of teal color, 0A, B2, B8. And then I'm going to bring the background image onto this, and I'm going to bring it up just slightly above halfway. Then I'm going to add a mask. I'm going to go with a soft brush that's already set pretty soft. Oh, let me go select the brush and set it soft. And then I'm just going to, and I'm using the bracket keys to make my brush smaller and bigger. And I'm just going to kind of brush away this hard line right here. And that's going to be our transition between our seafloor and, I'm going to lower that transmission, and the wall of some cavern or cave that or mountain that's coming up from the seafloor. Okay, now I'm going to add this water layer, and I really like this particular image because it has, the surface water you can see, as well as some texture down here on the ground, which just adds to the scene. Now I'm going to run that opacity down to right around 50%. So that you can see some of that background coming through the water. I'm going to pull the ship onto here. Okay, and that's about probably where I want it. And then I'm going to add a couple of holes. I was kind of experimented with doing this, and I didn't like it. And so I found just a picture of probably a shotgun blast through some wood. And I'm going to add a mask. Again, make sure that's a light, soft mask. The brush is set. And then I'm just going to start masking this away till it blends in. And I'll include this image as a download as well. But just something like that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to copy it. I'm going to drag it over here Maybe make it a bit bigger. Maybe just turn it all the way around just to make it look like a whole different hole. And check that. And then let me just kind of erase some of this towards the bottom here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to call this Bubbles. And I was able to just find a free bubble brush. And make sure that's set to white. And then I'm just going to add like air is escaping out of make sure that's back up to 100%. That I have some bubbles escaping up out. We'll make that bigger. Make it smaller again. Maybe have some bubbles coming up right there. Right there. Right there. Right there. Let's make that a little bigger. Make a little bigger bubble section right there. Okay, now I'm going to add actually a layer below the ship. And this is where I'm going to add some, I'll call it dust. But this is like the ship has hit the bottom and it's bringing up debris off of the floor of the ocean. So I'm just going to pick kind of a brownish, yellowish sort of color to begin with. And then these are those brushes that I gave you a link for. Like I said, they cost $1, and I think they're well worth it. So now I'm going to do is just kind of lay down some dust billowing up from the seafloor up around the ship. And then I'm going to go a little lighter and kind of go on top of that a little bit here and there just to add a little contrast. Okay, now I'm going to go above the ship. Call this dust. And start adding dust coming up over the edge of the side of the ship. I'm going to add another kind of lighter color just to give it again a little more depth and detail. Then I'm going to lower the opacity, and I'm just going to add a little bit of overall dust effect, just that's just kind of come up as that ship is sinking down into the ocean floor. So that looks pretty good, I think, at this point. Now we'll bring our models on. a little bigger. Just position them about in the center. And then I'm going to go back to the bubble brush, add a layer above. Excuse me, I've added that in the wrong place. I'm going to bring that all the way to the top. Add another layer, call it bubbles, and then just start adding some bubbles that make sure that's white. Make sure that's set to 100%. Just add some bubbles where it seems like it would kind of make sense. Let's find another brush. That's a little different shape. Up here where she's reaching, her fins would be creating quite a bit of bubbles as they went up through the water. Okay, and that's kind of basically it. Nothing too technical here. Just add, maybe some coming up from his hair would make sense, as well as her hair. Just adding those bubbles and making it look as realistic as reasonable. Now I'm going to take the same water layer I used before, and I'm going to bring it over the top again. And then I'm going to lower the opacity. Quite a bit. And that's going to add to that effect of this being an underwater scene. Okay. Now I'm going to bring on the background. Size it. All the way to the top. Okay, then I'm going to add a mask and go back to a conventional brush. Soft brush, 100% opacity, and then just kind of remove that section. You know what, I wanted that to be a bit harder brush to. So Control Z will kind of back up things you've done. So that's the undo. So something like that. I think that looks kind of good. Let me make just a little more of that ship visible. Now I'm going to add some fish. Just here and there, swimming around. And again, I downloaded these fish off of Yvonne 2 Elements, the same as the ship. seeing where these look the best. Check. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then again, I'm going to add that water layer over the top and reduce its opacity down really fairly low. Just want it to give that little bit of haze to the foreground. Okay, that's looking pretty good at this point. Now I want to kind of just brighten the whole thing up a bit. So I'm going to go to Adjustments, go to Hue Saturation, and boost that saturation up. Maybe around 30. See what that looks like. Yeah, right around, looks like I have it set at 26, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then I'm going to add a color balance. And I'm going to set the cyan to around -30. The magenta down to about 20, 21. And the yellow up to about 30. Just to kind of get that tonality that I'm after, giving it a little bit more of a bluish effect. So that is pretty close to being it. But what I want to do is put more emphasis on the mermaid and the sea captain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add a final layer, and I'm going to use the marquee tool, and I'm going to just add some black strips. So you just outline that and then hit Shift F5 and then select black if it's not already selected. Hit OK. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just to showcase the main focus of this, which should be the pirate and the mermaid. So pretty quick. I didn't get that down all the way. Fairly quick tutorial, but I think it gives a really good underwater look and feel to it. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I appreciate you watching my videos. See ya.